Greetings everyone. Here is part 2 of growing with hydroponics. In this portion you will see the system I built a few days after part 1. Part 1 was done on Wednesday or Thursday, that conversation. And so after that conversation I said I'll be building another system over the weekend, and so it was done 2 or 3 days later, which was on that Saturday. This system was much less complicated, easy to maintain, and can be duplicated with ease. It took me a bit over an hour or so to complete it, and that's working at a leisurely pace. You will see all parts and how to build it yourself. If you have any questions or comments, let us know in the comments section below. Also, if you know someone who can benefit from learning how to do this, please refer them to this video. We need as many people growing as possible. It doesn't matter if you're only growing one item only. You may love peaches, or you may love potatoes, or a strange variety of spinach. That's fine, okay? On next week, we will have an open lines call to go over what is on your minds, plus any further questions answered and details needed when growing via hydroponics and soil. Now, on to the show.
Right, greetings everyone on this Saturday. Okay, so what's up? Randy, Drew, Cami, Candace, Christy, Corey, Twan, Maurice, Mike, Amira, and Yolanda. So we're gonna get straight into it. If other people come on in, they do, but that's just that. So this is gonna be a continuation from the conversation that we had a week and a half ago. And actually a week ago, maybe. But anyways, that conversation was about the first hydroponic system. And I had mentioned to you all that I was going to create the second version, right? It was already in the works. And I wanted you all to see this firsthand. And so you could even see the differences in growth and stuff like that, which I do have pictures of all of that. So I created it on Saturday is when I built it. It took me about maybe around 2 hours or so, give or take a little bit. And I transplanted the plants out of the one system and I put them into the new system. Okay. And from the time of just 1 week, you're going to see how much growth happened. Okay. And so just give me one moment here. And so I'm about to share my screen and I'm going to go over cost and everything because ideally I want you to build it yourself. Okay. But there is a cost if I were to do it for you and then ship it to you. All right. But ideally, I'm giving you all the information so you can actually build it yourself. This is not difficult at all. There are some complexities that come with the other systems and things that have been created. But for this system, I just try to make it as simple as possible using parts that you could just locally get at your local hardware store or order on Amazon, for example. All right, so give me one moment here. All right. Okay, so you're about to see my screen here. All right, so you should see here part number 2 of growing with hydroponics. And this is an aeroponic misting system with storage totes. All right, so all right, so again, as mentioned, if you all want me to go over anything from the previous week, I will as well. But as mentioned previously, let me go back to it here. There's of course the 2 types of aeroponics. There's the misting, and then there's the fog. Ideally, you want the fog. Okay, when you see the explosive growths that you're about to see here, it would be even more so with the fogging based system. But to do that right is actually a lot of complexity. You need compressors and everything. So, but you're about to see the growth that took place with the one that has been constructed. So, one moment here. All right. Okay, everyone. So let's get into it now. Okay. All right. So here is a picture on Saturday. So on Saturday, March 19th, here's just a picture of the hydroponic system. Okay. That was created. It's a spot for 4 plants. Now it's enough space as you see there. You're going to see close-ups and stuff like that, but there's enough space here to actually put maybe 2 more in the middle. But depending upon what you're growing, you don't want to crowd your plants. You want your plants to get as large as possible. So of course here on the right, this is Dandelion Greens. On the left there, this is Amaranth. Back there on the right is Moringa. Okay, I'm actually giving that plant to somebody that wanted me to kind of start it off. So because they're actually going to plant a Moringa tree. So this will be actually the tree, actually. Okay. There are some complexities when it comes from going from hydroponics to soil. And we could get into that if any of you all have interest in that. But then behind this amaranth plant here, it's very difficult to see because the amaranth like literally, umbrellas it. But there's a lima bean plant, and the lima bean plant is quite big, but it lays in kind of weird ways. It's kind of like very viney, and it kind of like it's almost like the amaranth and the lima beans be talking or something because the lima beans kind of is circling kind of around the amaranth, and they have kind of a relationship going here, right? So I had to keep kind of pulling them apart, but it is behind that there. One of the things, I didn't take a picture of it, but as you see here, there's a light to the right side. So the original system, let me go up to it here, which was this system here. Okay, this was the railing system, and the railing, which was also a aeroponic misting system as well. The lights were just at the top. So the lights that you see here on my me moving my mouse here, so it was light right there, light right there. They got the bottom rails. There was a light up there and right here. You got the top rails, and there was even another section even higher at the top. Well, since I didn't need as much sections, I wanted to flood this new system with as much light as possible. So all these extra lights now, like at the top up here, there's 3 lights at the top, and there's 1 here on the side to get kind of the lower areas, okay, and leaves and branches, and there's 1 on this side as well to get the lower on that side, right? And so they are now being bombarded with, it's only 100 watts of light now, okay? The more light, again, the more even explosive growth and the larger your plants will become in shorter period of time. This is only 100 watts, okay, which is not a lot at all, okay, and they're LED lights, which we went over last week. So they're being flooded with light. Over here, there's the aluminum that you see there, that kind of mirror-like finish. That's mylar. That's going all the way around. Even in front of this, there's actually a door that closes on top of this, and that door has a mylar as well. You kind of see like a little picture of it right here to the lower right. Okay. So let's get into the system itself. Now, the bottom one you see here, this is the reservoir. Okay. This is where the water, AKA or whatever, the nutrient solution is stored. So the water is down here and it's pumped up into here. It's spraying the roots like crazy, and then it drains back into the bottom. Okay, so pretty much, and it's on a timer, like you see the timers right there. The 1 timer is for the lights, 1 timer is for the system itself, and the timers go on for they stay off for 15 minutes, and then they turn on only for 1 minute. Okay, and this is the sweet spot that I personally found that works best for what I'm doing, and in the different applications I've used this for, no matter kind of what kind of plants, I do the same system. Okay, so literally for 15 minutes it's off, and then it sprays for 1 minute, and then it turns off again. So it's 4 times an hour. Okay, it turns on. Okay, here is a glimpse to the inside of it. Very simple. Okay, which you're going to see this close up, but right here is a bunk. It's called a bunk head. Again, you're going to see pictures of all of this. This is a bunk head, and the reason why I could have just drilled a hole that was going from the submersible pump. I'm going to get into all of that. Someone's asking a question. I'm going to show you all pictures of the of everything, and even the actual product itself. So what you see here is it's a bunk head, right? And what this is used for is used to, so just give you an example. I could have just drilled a hole and ran this tubing directly down into the reservoir, directly into the pump, and kind of squeeze it through the hole and it kind of wrap it around like this, right? But what would happen is that you'd be surprised, roots love water, right? Surprising, right? But not only that, they will squeeze into the most smallest spots. You don't think they will squeeze into that little hole, even if you made the hole exactly. This was the 1/2 inch tubing. That's the inner dimension. The outer dimension is slightly larger, but let's just say it's 1/2 inch, right? And you created a perfect 1/2 inch hole, right? And even pushing the tubing through, you found that it was really a tight fit, right? But you will find that as your roots growing like crazy, especially in a system like this, you will find that the roots will find its way somehow between that. Okay. And so to avoid all of that, I put this bunk head there and it has a connection on both ends. Here's the connection here. So you see that right there. That's actually connection. This connection is screwed into the bunk head there. The same connection is on the top side as well. This is the bottom side going into the reservoir. This is the top side. And the tubing will hook into that. So on the bottom side, the tubing here will hook into this and it goes into the submersible pump. Okay. And so then from that point, you see I kind of wrapped it around. Super simple. Okay. Wrapped it around and I drilled holes on the side of the totes. Okay. And I put zip ties through it and zip tied it to the side. Okay, they're small holes. Okay, the holes are just big enough just to get the zip tie in. Okay, and so, and then from that point, as you see here, now I'm gonna show pictures of everything. This is kind of just an overview. What you see here down here is a kitchen strainer. Okay, like the mesh kitchen strainers, they cost, you get like a pack on for like $1 or something like that, right? And it keeps food from going into your drains. Literally is that, because I want the water to go through, but I don't want the roots to get through. Okay. So I just drilled a hole for that and the strainer just pops in that hole. Now there's some modifications I'm going to do later, which I will tell you about that once we get through all of it. Let's do something here. Okay, one moment here. Okay, so we'll get into that in a moment. So, okay, so it's just wrapped around. Now, of course, with the going back up to the railing system, which is here. So the railing system here, the tubing was going through, okay, all the way through. So it started on this end, right? It was a bunch of, this system was super complex for what it was, but nevertheless, it was a tubing going here, all type of splitters to split off to the two here, then went up, split off to there. There was cutoff valves over here that I put in and everything, right? And so the tubing goes to say to the left side, goes through, traveling to the right, and then it goes back down. As far as it's a hole there, and the water drains back down to the reservoir, which was sitting on the side over here, okay, on the floor. And the misters, I actually use misters and everything with this, okay? Very similar to the misters you will see at the grocery store misting your plants, but they were on Amazon. They were not the best ones, okay? They're readily available on Amazon, I should say, but they're not the best to be used at all because the root system clogs it up and any little particulate will clog it up. And so you end up changing them out all the time. Again, so it becomes labor intensive, right? You want a system that just works. And that is the downfall of aeroponics, period. Okay, that's the main complaint across the board, that it could become clogged. Okay, and you have to change out nozzles and stuff like that. So toward the end of the life of this system, which made me really want to create a new system, I started to just pull those nozzles out, which left a hole in the tubes. And that was a much better, it was a more of a denser spray at times, but still it was a much better saturation of water into the root system of the plants. Okay. So let's go back down here. So here, after the tubes was ran, I literally just drilled holes into the tubing. Okay. So I like put like a hole here, hole net that side. So I put a hole on each side of where the zip ties are, okay, and maybe a hole here and there on the other side. And so you want to put too many holes because you have to build a pressure. So as the water is going through from the bottom here, right, it's going through, it's just going around, and then eventually toward the end here, as you see, only thing is zip ties again. Okay, I'm bent over the tubing, and then I zip tied it down, which creates a pinch point, right? And that pinch point is what's creating the pressure in the system. So as the water is being pumped through, the water wants to get out somewhere. So where it's going to get out at, it's going to escape through the holes that you created. But if you created too many holes, or if the holes are too large, you might not have enough pressure in the system, which means that the water will just trickle out. Okay, and you don't want that. So let's go past that. Any questions you have, ideally type them out in the chat room. Okay, so as I'm going along, I can end up hitting those questions as I'm going. So let's see here. So here is now this picture. Okay, this is after the transport. So after that Saturday, after it was created, transported into the new system, this was what was seen. Okay. Now, as you see here on the amaranth, it's kind of empty down there because I was eating off of it. You know, that's the thing about when you have your own food growing, right? You can eat off of it all the time. And so as I'm eating off of the amaranth, the beans are not ready yet, but they may be ready in about maybe 2 weeks or so. Okay, they'll be ready, and I'll start cooking soups and making different lima bean dishes, right? And so, and that moringa plants can be changed to like a collard green or a mustard green. Okay. And so, because the reason why those types of greens, just if you're wondering, is because they grow fast and they grow, and you could keep chopping, cutting them, eating them, and they'll keep growing. Okay. So you can get a lot out of it. You want food that could keep replenishing itself. Ideally, for a male, you want 12 plants growing. Okay. Just to give you an idea, if you really want to put a dent in your grocery bill and become more self-sustained, you want about 12 plants growing. Now, of course, I said for a male, right? That means that for a woman and for a child, that's more than enough. Okay. And you want nutrient dense food. Okay. Nutrient dense food. Question in the chat room was, how much water do you fill the bucket with? So, okay. So the bucket system here, okay, these are 12-gallon buckets. I fill them up at first with about 5 gallons of either distilled or alkaline water. Okay, 5 gallons of water. And so, yeah, so 5 gallons of water is what I fill them with. You can go a bit higher, but for me, you really want to calculate how much water you're putting in, so you could calculate how much nutrients you're putting in, etc. So, yeah, so that's that. Sometimes I go maybe 6 gallons, something like that, but yeah. So also the question is, are the zip ties through drilled holes? Yes. The zip ties, again here, there's drilled holes there, and a zip tie is, I went through the hole, and it came back around, went through the hole again. Okay. And so each of these are holes. And no, water does not leak or anything because the holes are small enough that only pretty much the zip tie coming through. And it's not like water is being stagnant. The water, when it's spraying, it's more so spraying downward or to a downward angle. So it's not like spraying outside of the reservoir at all. Here, just so you know too, right now the amaranth plant is so heavy, it keeps falling through that. Literally now I'm going to put like some type of stick or something through here to keep it up. Like it keeps like falling through into the reservoir. Like the branch itself is like, it's very interesting. And it did this massive growth only within a week. And so I'm going to move past here now. Here's a little bit of close up of the amaranth, stem there. And so it's even much bigger than this now. Okay. And so the amount of growth, the aeroponic, even from the original railing system, the growth was amazing, fantastic, no complaints at all. But being that these totes here, they're not airtight, but they're practically airtight. Okay. they're black. So the root system, your plants want a moist, dark environment. Okay, that's ideally what they want, is a moist and very dark environment. And that's pretty much no matter what plant you're growing. Okay. And so if you give it that, and so it's completely dark, if light, like in the railing system here, let's go back to the top just so we got the visuals. In the railing system here, they didn't have black railings. That would have been ideal, but they didn't have black railings. So these are, of course, white. So even though it was like when I took off the end cap and looked in there, it was dark, but at the same time, it wasn't as dark as it possibly could be. Your roots want complete darkness. Okay. They don't want any light hitting them at all. If light is hitting your root system, the plants will grow slower. Okay. So just be aware of that. And so this here has been absolutely perfect. And these the totes had handles on it. So not only was it just sitting on top, but when you close the handles, it's even a tighter fit. Okay. So it creates a really moist, misty environment, which the roots love, which you're going to see here momentarily. Yes, you only fill the bottom reservoir with water only because it's being pumped up and sprayed at the top and then being drained back to the bottom. So it's a closed recycling system. Okay. It's just going to keep going in and out, in and out. All right. Two around each. The person asks, how many holes do you drill in the tube? Again, two around each zip tie. So one there, one on each side. Okay, so one on this side, one on that side, one on this side, one on that side, one on this side, one on that side, and do it all the way around. And then you want to test your system. So when you turn it on, you have everything hooked up. You have what you just have plain water at the bottom, just for testing, right? Because you don't want to put nutrients in there and get sprayed with it and stuff like that. When you're messing with your nutrients, or you have to clean it out, or you have to just do something where you're opening up and your hand is going to go inside your nutrient solution, you should make sure you have those elbow gloves on, those kitchen gloves and stuff like that. Okay. You don't want, your skin does absorb this stuff. So you don't want your skin absorbing concentrated nutrients. Okay. So that's the stem there. Moving on. That's the Moringa plant there. Okay. That's the lima beans in the back. Okay. Again, this is right after it was transported. So here is the root system after transplanting, Saturday, March 19th. Okay. So that's how the roots look. Okay. They were growing. Again, remember, you want very white, milky roots. Okay, ideally. These were a little bit darker. They're not milky white and bright because, again, they came from a system that was inadequate really for it. Okay, that railing system, there's some modification. Like I'm doing something for somebody right now that is going to be a much larger, it's going to be a system that can handle 100 plus plants. Okay, so because it can handle 100 plus plants, it's going to be a modified, it's going to be in between these two systems here. Okay, so but nevertheless, as you see here, the roots are growing and they're whitish, but you see kind of some brown kind of in there, stuff like that. Okay, it's okay, but it's not ideal. Okay, so now this next picture here is from today. Okay, so this is 1 week. Like, look at that. Okay, look at the one in the back here specifically, right? So can we look at the one in the back on this picture? Let's go back. You see, a week later, you see, it's about 6 inches longer. Okay. Remember, the bigger the root system, that means the bigger the plant, that means it's growing, ferociously. And so here on the right side here, this plant here, which is this is back here, this is the Moringa. This here is the lima bean. The amaranth is over here. You can't really see it. And this is the dandelion. Okay. So the dandelion grew about 1 foot. The amaranth, because I can't really I tried to open up the bin. I can't open up the bin without breaking the root system because the roots pretty much wrapped around, specifically the amaranth roots, it wrapped around the tubing. Okay. You'll be surprised the intelligence and nature of your plants. Okay. And you want to be very gentle with them. You don't want to cause them stress. So right now the amaranth roots are wrapped around some of the tubing here. Okay, so it's actually wrapped around the top and the bottom. So if I try to pull up too much, it would literally break those roots. I don't want to do that. When I transported the amaranth from this system here, okay, it had grown. So let's say it was in this hole here. Okay, the amaranth. Okay, it had grown the root system all the way down the rail into the hole, the drainage hole, all the way down into the reservoir. So literally when I opened up the reservoir, I seen roots there that were from the amaranth plant that was nowhere near it. Okay. So when I end up transporting it into this system, there was a person who was a bit worried when I told them I was doing that, because like, oh, it's going to die, because I literally had to cut off a lot of the roots. But I said, no, it'd be fine, just because of the way aeroponics is. But not only that, because it has so many roots that even though that was a lot, I pretty much cut off like 2 feet, 3 feet of roots, okay, to be able to even get it out of the railing system. Okay. And so, and when I put it in here, it didn't miss a beat. It didn't fold over or anything like that. And it was just perfect. So, which was a good thing. Okay. So let's see here. Let me go back down. Okay. So as you see here, so again, the amaranth it wrapped around the tubing. Okay. So I can't pull it up at all. Okay. And so I really want to get a good picture, but my camera wouldn't even fit to really get a good picture because of the way it was wrapped. And the other ones are probably going to end up wrapping it around it as well. Okay. The amaranth roots are about 3 feet long, and it's a big mass. Okay, like how you see this mass here from the dandelion here on the right. Okay, the mass is like double or triple that. Okay, it's growing like crazy, and I'm actually quite even surprised myself. I mean, I knew aeroponics does a certain thing. I've been doing it now for of course a few months now with this particular method, but to see when it's actually ideal, enclosed, misting environment, ideally how it should be, or at least very close to that, the growth is just astronomical. Okay, to the point where even though there are challenges with this type of system, especially the more you want to get it to the fogging type, still it's well worth it. Okay, in my opinion, anyway, especially if you're trying to grow a lot of food quickly. Okay, so here's a close-up of the amaranth. Shout out to everybody. See, we have some people. What's up, Z? Skylar, Siobhan. Let's see who else joined. A few people joined us. Is that Brian 0500? What's up, Ed? Brian, is that you? 0500?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's me.
Okay, cool. How you feeling, Brian?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. Okay, so of course, many of you do grow all different types of herbs and things of this nature. So a system like this is the thing. Now, of course, I'm not going to tell all my secrets, right? But there are even methods that I utilize to have the plants grow a certain way. But the thing about it is, a system like this, especially if you're growing certain types of herbs, the type of growth and everything else will be absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, so here's a close-up of the amaranth. Again, this is today. Here's a close-up of the dandelion greens. Okay, you see it's like a big mass of it. Okay. Here is the close-up of the moringa. Okay, as it's growing. And just so you all know, all the plants that are growing are from the seeds from the Metacenter website. Okay, this is not something like I'm getting somewhere else. These are seeds. Like when I grow mustard greens, it's going to be the mustard seeds from the Metacenter website. Like after actually tonight sometime, I'm going to actually get the seeds planted so they can start sprouting, because I need to grow more food personally. Okay. So this is so today I did some cuttings. Okay, so you've seen the plants, right? You see the plants. Okay, let me go back up. You see the plants. So today I made a soup. Okay, and I wanted to use the food from my garden, right? So I cut off. Now again, remember, you're not seeing this how big this amaranth really is. Okay, it's going way to the back and everything, right? And so I have to keep, like, every day it's like a new leaf growing. And you remember, every time you prune it, so every time you cut, it's going to create a branch off in 2 directions, maybe even 3 directions, right? And it's going to create even triple the amount of leaves. Okay, so this is going to keep happening, and you want to grow something that does that. Okay, so I cut off a whole bunch, which still wasn't nothing. It didn't do anything to it at all as far as the way it looked. Okay, it still looks like a big canopy. And then I cut, of course, a lot of the dandelions as well. I even cut a little bit of the moringa in the back. Okay, and so you're going to see the soup here. So this is the bowl. Okay, the soup just had a whole bunch of different vegetables and stuff in it and stuff like that. But I wanted to put some greens in it. Now let me tell you something else as well. If you were to taste any of this here and taste the store bought version of it, right? So let's say you even had an organic. Remember, this is organic. Okay, this is real organic. As far as the stuff we're getting that's saying is organic is still sprayed a lot of times with herbicides and pesticides, if you didn't know that. Okay, so the organic food that we get, unless it comes from a really moral establishment, okay, it is still allowed to be sprayed with chemicals. Okay, so just be aware of that. So let's see here. One moment, everyone. Okay, hold on. I gotta stop my share kind of on my end. It kind of broke up real quick. So give me a moment here. What's up, Kev? See you there as well. How you doing, Teresa? All right, so just bear with me one moment, you all.
Greetings, everyone.
Okay, share my screen again here. Okay, so share my screen again. You should see it there. Okay. All right, let's see here. Okay, so so this is a big bowl, of course, as you see here. This is amaranth in there and dandelion, and you can see little moringa leaf in there too. Okay. And so if you were to again take an amaranth, right? It's like, go to your store, go to whatever store you want to go to, find the best amaranth or find the best dandelion greens you can find. Okay. And if you were to bring it here and take a bite of it, and then take a bite of mine here, right? Even look at the dandelion leaves. Look how thick they are, right? in the color, okay, the vibrance, right? And if you were to eat one of mine here, the taste is completely different. I guarantee, other than eating just a green, you wouldn't be able to really taste the store-bought variety. But when you eat this, it's so flavorful. It's like, okay, something's off with the store stuff now at this point. Okay, so here is the cooking. I just want to show this just for more of a visual effect. All right, so you got that there. Another.
I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, chicken, turkeys, rabbits, you name it.
All right, so all right, so there is it. That's the finished product there. Okay, that's the finished product, just for extra emphasis there. All right, so all right, so let's get into costs. Okay, let's get into costs. Remember, the whole reason for this is, of course, not to gloat or anything like that. The whole reason for this is to get you to do it, even if I have to help you. Okay, so even if I have to help you, that's fine, but still, it's to get you to start growing food, because it is just that important. Okay, So I'm going to show actually pictures of these products as well. But the timer was $15.99. The air stone, $24.99. The tubing for the air stone, $1.73. The air pump, $23.99. The 1/2 inch, its inner ID is inner diameter, 100-foot tubing, $46.16. 2-inch clone collars. Now the clone collars, well, I'm going to get into that because they're not used. You don't see them being used right now. I bought them for the previous railing system, but I am going to use them for a reason, and I'm going to get into that. Besides just growing, a plant through it. Those were $11.49 for a 60-pack. The 2.75 inch, which is really the 3-inch clone collars, were $7.99. The 660 gallons per hour submersible pump, that was $24.99. The coarse pond filter, I didn't show, was 12-inch by 72. That's $46.99. So let me show you all what that is. You can't really see it, but it's there. So of course, this is a one tote on top of another tote, obviously, right? And there's a hole drilled that's going through this tote and going to the bottom tote there. Well, there's a gap between these two, okay? And you just don't want water kind of just get into weird places, even though it still does just a little bit, but it's manageable. So between these two, there's the filter medium is sitting there, okay, with a hole drilled through it as well. Okay, so it's the same hole size that's going through it, okay? That just kind of keeps it where the coarse one is actually a bit too holy, has to be, it's a bit more open. So I would actually even get a different one the next time. But it keeps it so that between those two areas, water is not getting all over the place and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go back down. Okay, 2 12-gallon totes. It comes to $23.96. 1/2 inch bunkhead, $5.99. 2 1/2 inch diameter MIP adapter. Those are the little adapters that you've seen that the tube will go on. That was $238. The total, okay, the total comes to $236.65. Okay, now this does not include lights, because some of you, like I think it was Amira who mentioned to me early in the week that she may want to grow it outside, and people do that. Okay, they do grow it outside. So in that case, you don't need lights. Okay, and ideally you should do more than 100-watt lights. Okay, again, this was a testing thing. I literally create this whole system for you all. Okay, when it comes to growing things, stuff like that, I do that, but I do it, people hire me to do that, and so I'll be creating things for them. Okay, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to create something that you all could create. Okay, and so that's what that was the whole point of this journey here. Okay, for me to figure out how can I create something at the lowest cost possible with parts that you could potentially get locally. All this stuff you could still get locally. Okay, but of course Amazon has some things, and maybe had like the timer, for example. I didn't like the timers that were at Menards, so I like the timer that I got from Amazon, which I'm going to show you here in a moment. Ancient says, did you have to wait until the roots get big to plant them? Yes, you cannot plant necessarily sprouts into this hydroponic type of system. Okay, you have to be careful. You want the roots to be about 2 to 3 inches. Okay, 2 to 3 inches before you attempt to really plant it into the new system. Okay, just so it has a chance to really grow, okay, at that point, okay, and be vibrant, because I have transplanted plants that were much smaller than that into the main hydroponic system, and sometimes they don't do so well. Okay, so the total comes to $236.65. If you want me to do it for you, it has to be worth my while to do it. Again, I want you to do it yourself, but if you want me to do it, no problem. But it's gonna be $450 plus the shipping. Okay, so that's $450 total, so it includes the cost of all the stuff, but it's $450 plus shipping. And I'm not sure what shipping would be. I'll have to make it and then put it into a box and all of that, and then you will know what that will be. Okay, so that's just that. So let's get into some of the actual parts here. So here's the timer. I really like this timer here. Okay, again, at Menards, they had a bunch of timers at the hardware store, but I just didn't like the ones they had. Okay, so this is what I use here. Here's the aquarium air stone here. Here's the tubing for the air pump that goes to the air stone. Here's the air pump. Here's the tubing that went around the whole bin, plus the part that hooks to the submersible pump, and then to the lower part of the spray tank. Okay. Here's the collars. Here's the larger size collars. Here's the submersible pump. It's like this pump here will be at the bottom in the it's literally in the water in the reservoir. The cord will just go out the side somehow. Okay. The tubing will hook to this at the top, and it will hook then to the bottom of that part. I'll show you. Go back to it here. It will hook to that there. The same tubing you'll use on the other side to hook to it, and then wrap it around and stuff. Okay. Here's the filter, material. Here's the totes, 12-gallon tote. They do have a bigger version. They have a 17-gallon tote. The 17-gallon tote could easily fit comfortably 6 plants. Okay, 6 plants per each one. I wouldn't really put more than necessarily 6 plants, unless you're creating one of these for to be like your sprout growing. So like if you'll first sprout them a little bit first, and then you'll put them in a system like this, let's say, and you'll get them to grow bigger, and then you'll finally transplant from this system to the bigger system. Okay, if that's the case, yeah, I will put tons of little holes in here to fit the. I forgot to add some things on here. The neti pots. Okay, so the neti pots are what, of course, you're in the cocoa peat. Okay, so let me add that in here. The cocoa peat, which is the clay balls that go around to keep your potentially keep your plant stable in there. And then there's the net pots. The net pots, of course, are the pots for the hydroponic system itself. Okay, both of them are cheap as well. Okay, not expensive as well. So I got to add that to the cost as well. So the cost will be a bit higher for the commission and on just you all's part price. So let me see here real quick. So I'm actually going to do it now. So it would be. Oh, I don't do that. Okay, so it's going to be 2-inch net pots, 3-inch net pots. Now the net pots come up to, I think, size 7 or 8 inch. What I found for the most part, at 3 inches is a sweet spot. If you're growing a plant that's going to be around for a long time, like a tree or something, right? Then maybe a 7-inch would be better. But again, that's something that has to be talked about there. And then the cocoa peat. Okay, so I'm gonna get pricing for that while we have our conversation as well. So here is the bunk head. Okay, so that's what a bunk head is there. Okay. And then here is the part that this part here screws into that side and screws into that side there. And the tip of this part is what the tubing, just slides onto. Okay. So so a couple of things here now. That's it for today. So that's it. Any questions or things you have, we could get into that. So let me show you something here, a few things. So there's a few modifications that I would do to this system for the next one. So like literally, again, this took up a little bit more space than I wanted, but I am going to grow 12 plants ideally or more. So what you will find is that first off, in this type of system, the way it's set up right now, you don't know the water level. You have to literally open the bottom part up and look in there to see the water level. So I'm creating a tube on the side here that will let me know the water level at all times. So I'll know if I need to refill it, okay, without having to open it up at all, okay? So that's going to be in the next design. Also up here at the top, even if I'm not going to do 2-inch holes in any of this, right? I'm going to create a 2-inch hole that I'm going to plug up with a neti pot and a collar. So it'll be plugged up so no water escapes or anything like that. And the whole point of it is just so I can have a hole I could easily pour water into. Okay, so like I would take that off, put maybe a funnel on top, and I would pour my nutrient solution or additional water into that funnel. Okay, so it makes a mess-free fill up. Okay, because other than that, only way to fill up is either you have two options. You could kind of pull your plant out and pour the water or the nutrient solution directly down in there. You don't want to pour nutrient solution directly on your plant, okay, because it may burn it because it may be too concentrated. So you can pour water directly on it though and through it. So, or the other option is to literally pick up the bottom part here and kind of squeeze your jug or whatever in there to fill up the tank. Okay, as you see, that can get kind of messy and you don't want to be doing all of that. So to make it easy, literally I'm going to drill a hole at the top. The hole would be plugged up most of the time until I'm ready to pour water through that hole. Okay, another thing is also the drain holes. Okay, so like right here I did like a 3-inch drain, a 3-inch hole here that I put the mesh on top. I'm not going to do a hole that big, and I'm not going to do it kind of in the corner like that. I kind of just wanted it separated from here over here. So more than likely what I'm going to do is put it right in the center there. Okay, and the hole could be smaller. Okay, so maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches. That's it. It doesn't need to be big at all. Okay, so it's going to be 1.5 inches to 2 inch hole right there in the center of it, and that's the drain hole, and it's still going to have the mesh on top of it. Okay, and so that's that with that. And anything else here? Oh, the one benefit also of growing, because you know exactly what you're putting in your plant, right? So you know how it's growing. But not only that, but would you spray potentially on top of it, right? So you may spray some water on it, you may not. But the thing about it is, especially regardless if you spray just water or you don't spray it at all, your plant is actually clean, right? There's no bugs. Think about that, right? Especially if you do it inside. Okay, outside you still may have the bugs and things outside, so you still may just need to gently just rinse them. But if it's grown inside, you have no bugs, you have no mites, as long as you don't have an infestation. Okay, no bugs, no mites of any kind. You don't have any fecal matter on it. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing you need to wash off, literally. Okay. Yes, at the very most, you just may give it just a quick little dusting of water. That's it. Okay. So when I of course made the soup that you've seen, okay, when I made that soup there, I didn't have to do any prep. Okay, it wasn't like many of you, those who here who maybe may make greens yourself, or may help grandma or something make greens, or have done that. You know how much time it takes to clean the greens that you get from the store. And not only that, they're absolutely disgusting. Bugs come off of them, tons of dirt. I guarantee you a lot of that dirt does have fecal matter in it as well. It's just nasty. Okay, you don't have to worry about any of that. Okay, none of it. All right, this is literally clean, vibrant, dense greens. Okay, so hopefully this was a little bit inspiring for some of you all, no matter what you may be growing. Okay, and let me tell you also something else too, right? I'm actually creating a course about this on the website, and so it's going to go deeper into this whole growing journey. It's not a course to like have homework or anything like that. It's just to keep track, as almost like a journal, almost of the growing journal of the growing journey, and for people to ask questions and to even share their journey, stuff like that. But I'm also going to start growing mushrooms, okay, as well. Okay, so fungi. And it's not just for, I don't really eat mushrooms, so it's not for the mushrooms itself, it's for learning different aspects of development of plant life, right? That's what it is for me. But in turn, I'm going to be growing huge mushrooms, okay? And that also is going to be cataloged, and the journey will be there on the website as well. So with that, any questions, comments, anyone? Any questions or comments, or anything you want me to go back over, anything you want to see again? Just let me know here.
How you doing, Tony? This is Corey.
Okay, what's up, Corey?
Not too much. I had a question about. You said it can be grown outside. Would that be used in a greenhouse preferably, or?
Okay. Okay. So, thank you for mentioning that, Corey. Okay. So, hydroponics does not have to be like in a closed door. So, literally, you could have this in your backyard, just literally in your backyard growing. Now, there's some modifications potentially. Okay. Now, this system here that you're seeing is perfect for it because it's closed up, right? You don't have to worry about something necessarily getting inside of it. So, which is fantastic, especially if your plant, it grows like about the size of this Moringa plant. What I'm going to end up doing literally tonight when we got off this call here, I'm going to dump out the cocoa peat there. I still keep it though. Okay. I'm not throwing it in the garbage. I'm just taking it out of here and I'm just going to put a collar around it. Okay. The clone collars, right? And so that means that beneath the clone collars, it would just be the exposed root system before it goes into the bigger exposed root system. And that's fine. That's totally cool because nothing's going to happen to it. Okay. So the same thing you would do, let's say outside as well. Now outside, you have two options. You have a few options outside. Now this is not in the greenhouse. This is like if this is out kind of in the backyard, or you have like on a rack in the corner of the backyard, something like that, right? First off, remember you don't need sunlight because you get sun out there. Okay. Two, you still have the pumps and all that stuff going. So it's still being sprayed and all that stuff internally, right? Three, you can hook up a cheap, I meant to look up the wattage. I did not look up the wattage, Corey. Not yet anyway. Okay. But you could have this system does not require, especially since there's no lights, it does not require a lot of solar power. Okay. So once you calculate how much wattage it's using, you literally could have a cheap little solar panel plugged into, because think about it's the timer, excuse me, it's the timer, it's the submersible pump. That's pretty much it from the outside. That's all is being plugged up. Yeah, that's all is being plugged up, right? So then you plug that into your solar panel, right? And let's say the solar panel is one of those like $150 ones on eBay or something. And it will literally just power that. So it's no power at all. It's not costing you anything after that point of power. Okay. And so, but with that, when it comes to outside, just purely outside, depending upon how much space the person has, there's many, as we went over before, there's many different types of hydroponic systems. Okay. We went over that before. Here is it here, like there's the drip method. There's the another type of drip method there. There's the deep water culture. There's the NFT, which is it's the nutrient film technique. There's the wick method. There's the ebb and flow. And then there's the aeroponics. Okay. So depending upon what's going on and how much space is available outside and so on and so forth, you may actually use a different method to grow. Okay. But it could just be even a bigger version of this. Okay. As well. Now, in a greenhouse, okay, so let's say you have a greenhouse outside as well, right? So the same similar thing, right? Potentially solar panels as well, depending upon how much power you're actually using. Because it's a greenhouse, you don't need necessarily any lights either, okay? But the benefit of the greenhouse is that now you could grow tropical fruit and tropical vegetables and stuff, okay? That you would not necessarily been able to grow if you're not in those regions outside. Okay, it's like literally grow a banana tree. Okay, grow oranges, a citrus tree in your greenhouse using hydroponics. Okay, so it does become water intensive after a period of time. Okay, so just be aware of that, of course. But still, it can be done. You can grow all different types of vegetables that don't grow in our environment at all. Okay, so like only fruits and vegetables that say grow in Jamaica, something like that. Okay, you'll be able to grow in your greenhouse because the greenhouse typically will have more tropical like temperatures, and it will grow like crazy because of course you're using hydroponics. Okay.
So I think the fan that you used in the last system, this system here doesn't incorporate a fan at all, right?
Oh yes, I have a fan as well. I'm glad you mentioned that too. So the fans are these two white cores you see here. Okay, those go to the fans. Okay, and so there's fans above. I couldn't really position them because there's doors right here in front, and so it kept hitting. I don't want to fall on the plant and kind of bending things and breaking them. But So I have them sitting on top of a rack and kind of blowing at an angle, at 2 different angles. And because of that, they're still blowing and kind of pushing it around. The reason why in this setup, especially indoors specifically, why you want a fan is because first, if you have a lot of lights around like I do, it's producing a lot of heat. Okay. You don't want your plants to burn. So that's number 1. Okay. You want to dissipate that heat. Okay. Number 2, it's the fan is simulating wind blowing, right? And so what happens is that your plants themselves will become stronger. The branches and everything will become stronger because, of course, it's like the wind is constantly blowing on it. So it has to kind of offset that. And it offsets that by putting more density within its stems and branches and stuff like that. So, yeah. So if you're indoors, especially, yeah, I advise having a fan blowing on it constantly. Okay. If you're outdoors, you don't need it because the outside is already blowing on it. If it's inside of a greenhouse, greenhouses are typically enclosed. If that's the case, then you probably want maybe like 2 semi-industrial fans blowing in opposite directions. So it kind of creates like a circular, kind of like a tornado-like effect, cyclone-like effect within there. And so all the plants are kind of being moved one side to the other constantly, which again creates a stronger plant, which means their root system is also stronger as well.
And how often do you have to fill the water up? I know you say it can be water intensive. On that this system here particularly, have you twice, or have you already did it twice, or since
Okay.
you designed it?
So the thing about it is that from last week already to this week, I've added 2 more gallons. So within literally 7 days, the plants here drunk 2 gallons of water. Okay. And so, because I put initially 5 gallons in it. Okay. So it went down to about 3 gallons left, maybe even 2.5. And so I added 2 or so gallons to it to bring it back to the initial level, which is 5 gallons. Okay. So that's the thing about it. Your plants, the big thing about the bigger your plants are, which more than likely means, because typically what you see above, let's say above ground, is also what is at least below ground when it comes to your root system. Okay. So the big plant that you see and how it looks there and everything else, how spread out it is, that same kind of density of this amaranth, for example, is in the bucket itself, in the tote, okay, itself. Okay. And so the dandelion, maybe, skinny dandelion leaves and stuff, but still, again, it's the same thing. Okay. So they suck up a lot of water. All right. So if you have a greenhouse full of, let's say, 30, 40 plants, oh yeah, you're gonna be going through 30 gallons a week, which is, whatever, people probably, in 1-2 showers, they use more than that, but still, you're going to go through it. So.
And the solution, so you pretty much mix it per gallon when you add the water in there also?
Yep. So it depends on what's going on. So you may not add solution just because you're filling up. It just depends on the concentration. Okay, so let's go back here. So I showed the Fox Farm before, which is it's an excellent solution. It's a good starter point, which is right here. Okay, they do come in larger quantities as well. Okay, so depending upon how much water you've added, how soon you had to add it, and so on and so forth, you may not be adding solution every single time. Okay, it literally just depends. Okay, so like when I did my fill up, I didn't add any solution when I did my fill up. Okay, that time, because it was still, I can even look into the reservoir, still see some solution in there. Now, someone say, well, you should add it, because you also want to use there's a meter called you want to have like a pH meter for sure, to look at your pH and stuff like that. But it's called an EC meter. Okay, it's electroconductivity meter, and what it does is it's able to gauge how pretty much how much nutrients are in your solution, in short. Okay, how dense the nutrients are in your solution, right? And so after you do like a new fill up, right? Let's say, because every 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, you clean out your tank, right? So, and let's say with fresh water and fresh nutrients in there, what is the density of the nutrient solution. You put it in there and you see, right? So that's like the ideal, right? And then from that point, as you're refilling water in it and so on and so forth, you are putting that in there just to see what the solution is, right? So let's say if it was 1,500 parts per million, right? But then a week later, when you added another 2 gallons or 3 gallons, it was down to 1,100 parts per million. Well, that's still not bad. You know what I'm saying? So, so for me anyway, I don't add solution every single time. Now, if you're using pure distilled water versus, let's say, maybe alkaline water or reverse osmosis water, then it's a little bit slightly different just because distilled water has nothing in it. So once the nutrients are all taken up by the roots of the plants, even though it's still water in there, yeah, now you're starting to strain your plants at least a little bit because they're looking for nutrients, and distilled water gives them nothing. But the reason why distilled water is a good thing to use in this type of scenario is because it has nothing in it. Okay, so like you don't want to use at all tap water whatsoever, ideally. Okay, so even if you have a big greenhouse and you're growing tons of plants, you want it to go through some type of filtering system. Okay, you don't want to just use tap water. Tap water has all types of hormones in it, all types of garbage in it that you don't want your plants soaking up, because remember, you're going to eat that. Okay, and so that's why in eating the food that you see me make today, I literally made that right before I literally got through eating it right before we started our session today. I feel absolutely wonderful. I feel fantastic. I feel more like nourished and full for a longer period of time, and so on and so forth. Because this is not the first time I've eaten the food from it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like nourished. Like even sometime in the morning time, I just go there, take a leaf or two off, and just eat the raw leaf or two. Okay, and it gives me like a boost of energy and kind of keeps me like full for a while. Okay, so it's an amazing thing, especially when you're kind of like putting like a superpower to your plants like this. Okay, someone else says something here. Is that it, Corey?
Oh, well, last question. I know with everything going on with the future food shortage, would you recommend stocking up on solution?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a very good question. Yes. Yes. If you're gonna do hydroponic, again, hydroponics ideally the fantastic. Okay. If in between hydroponics, let's say the soil is how the soil ideally should be. Okay. Then growing soil. You get what I'm saying? If it's how it should be, then let's say if I had a bunch of quite a few acres and the soil is of really good quality, right? It's ideal. Yes, I will grow most of my crop out there and maybe a few specialty items via hydroponics, whether it be indoor or outdoor. Okay. But because of the situation, what it is, because of what's going on, where if you want to grow food as quickly as possible, again, the thing about hydroponics, you can grow as quickly as possible. All right. It's really quick. So it grows quickly and it can grow very dense. I mean, it's very nutrient packed in a very short period of time. Okay. So because of that, especially if you're growing for a lot of people. Okay. So let's say it's a system you want to feed, let's say 14 people, I would do hydroponics. Okay. Because especially it would get the process going much quicker. Okay. After the initial setup, of course. Okay. Much quicker and going on while potentially we also are doing soil. Okay. When it comes to, again, because hydroponics uses chemicals, that's the thing about it. It uses chemicals, right? And because of what's going on with the world and the grid down situations that could potentially happen, I would most definitely have like stock up on as many, especially if you're going to grow this way, stock up on as much as possible, literally. Candace.
No, that's it. Thank you. Thank
okay,
you.
cool. Thank you, Corey. Candace, it's I see you had your hand up there.
Hey Tony, pardon me if this was answered prior, but I just ordered the heirloom seeds from the site yesterday, and I live in an apartment complex. If I want to grow this, I know you mentioned that I guess it needs to sprout before I can actually probably put it into the system here. What do you think is the best way of doing that? Because if I'm buying seeds, they're not going to sprout, of course, right away. Is it best to have seeds that are already like sprouted before I put in the system, or can I maybe put it in like a cup or something and let it grow? Like, how do I go from these heirloom seeds to this system here?
Okay. So there's a few different things, right? I'm glad you mentioned that because it opens the door for another part of this conversation. Let's talk about cloning and stuff like that. So like my amaranth plant, right? Instead of, okay, so let's say to sprout a seed, right? One of the easier ways to sprout is either two things. You can just get like a little container. Use, now it's not cocoa peat. I mentioned earlier cocoa peat. Cocoa peat is it's a dirt-like, it's a neutral dirt-like substance that comes from coconuts. That's what I would use in this situation. Okay, the clay balls that you see, they're clay pebbles. Let me actually look at it while we're speaking here. Okay, so I can tell you the exact name of that, and I'm going to put it while we're speaking into our conversation here. Clay pebbles. Okay, so you're going to see here. Okay, I'm about to show you all some stuff here in a moment. And they're going to put cocoa peat in, cocoa peat. Okay. So you're all about to see something here in a moment. And let's see, what else was it? It was cocoa peat. Oh, it was neti pots. Okay, so I want you all to see this. 2-inch net pots. And 3-inch net pots. Okay, so I'm about to screenshot this and put it within our chat here. While I'm doing this, let me know, everyone, are you finding this conversation interesting?
Yes, definitely.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, right now I am adding it to the presentation. So just give me this one moment here. I want you all to see this directly. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't want to forget this, because we would have ended the conversation and then like, oh, forgot to show that. All right, so give me one moment, you all. All right. I'm almost finished here. Okay. Okay, so, all right. So I'm about to share my screen again here. All right. Okay, so you should see the screen. Okay, so how would I sprout the seed? So you have a few different methods of doing this. So because, for example, so let's say, for example, if we live near each other, Candace, right? And you say, I want to grow amaranth, right? So what I would end up doing more than likely is giving you a cutting of my amaranth. Okay, so I would just find one of the longest leaf extensions, right? I would cut it, have you put it in water, let it grow roots. Okay, if I haven't already done it already. Okay, let it grow roots, and then from that point, you just plant it directly into your hydroponic system. That's kind of the quickest way of doing it. Okay, so especially if you have a plant that's growing that's absolutely fantastic, and you don't want to start from seed because that is a longer process to start from seed, then what you would do is you would take a cutting. Okay, even at nurseries and stuff, right? You could go to a nursery, get cuttings sometime at some nurseries, or even they may have a plant growing that you want that is organic or heirloom, whatever. You take that and you just put it directly into your hydroponic system. I guarantee, see, going from hydroponics to soil is not necessarily a good thing, because think about it, right? Your roots are exposed, right? So and they're getting fed nutrients, especially if you create a system like this. The aeroponic system is a more complex system. I just made it simple for you all to do, okay? But it is a more complex system versus the other methods of hydroponics. So, but with the aeroponics, of course, it's in these other hydroponic systems, the root system is pretty much exposed, right? And so because the root system is exposed like that, the nutrients are going directly into it, right? So it's creating that hyper growth and that hyper strength within this plant, okay? Taking it from there and putting it into soil is going to maybe fold over a little bit. Some of parts of it may die off a little bit, okay? And that's a natural process because now it's not getting probably even half of the nutrient concentration that it was getting before. Now, some persons could probably possibly say like, okay, well, I just pour more nutrients on top of it then inside the pot. No, because now you're giving it too much fertilizer and you may burn your plant or kill your plant because of that, okay? You just want to, if you go from hydroponics to soil, you just literally want to water it just like you would do any soil plant. But just know that going from hydroponics to soil, your plant is going to die off a little bit, okay? Now, going from soil to hydroponics, your plant will love it. It will have explosive growth, okay? Because it's like, whoa, it's almost like, I didn't know this could be like this, you know. One second here, just one moment here. Yeah, so it's like, I didn't know it could be like this. So typically going the opposite route from soil to hydroponics, you will notice that your plant will go crazy, okay? Especially if you're growing more than just that one plant, you will notice that it's growing just crazy growth, okay? So again, so now starting from seed, okay? So pretty much what you'll do is you'll take a paper towel. This is the paper towel method, okay? You could just take a paper towel and you could, you wet the, so you take 2 paper towels and you fold it on top of each other, right? So you fold it once and you fold it again, okay? So it's like a square. You wet it up, so it's all wet with, let's say, alkaline water or even distilled water or whatever. Then from that point, you open up one of the folds there, right? And you put the seed right in the middle of that and close it back, okay? And then from that point, you take this wet or damp paper towel, you put it inside of a plastic bag, okay? So now it's creating humidity. And you take that and you put it into a warmer place, underneath a kitchen sink, underneath bathroom sink, just somewhere where it's going to kind of stay kind of warm and dark, okay? Within of maybe, for most seeds, if you give it about 4 to 7 days, and you look at it, it should be sprouted and it should have a bit of root that has grown as well, okay? That's the paper towel method. Or you could just take, for example, the seed, you can get like a pot, okay? Or even like those little sprouting kind of containers. They have like a bunch of little holes in it. You'll fill it with cocoa peat. Again, cocoa peat comes from coconut. Okay, it's neutral. It doesn't have anything in it at all. And you would literally, but it's like dirt. So it comes in these bricks. You ideally would not want to wet up the whole brick unless you want to use all of that. Okay, because once it's wet up, it expands like 10 times the amount. Okay, so if anything, you want to cut some of that brick off. You'll wet it up, put it in water. It'll soak up the water and become like this dirt you see here on the screen. From that point, you'll put it into little holes in your little seed sprouting thing that you get from Walmart or anywhere. Okay, it's cheap stuff. Okay, then you'll put the seed in there and just wet it up. Okay, like you would normally plant a seed. Okay, you'll want it to get maybe about 2 inches tall potentially. Now, some plants don't grow tall; they grow more wide. Okay, you just want it to grow 2 inches tall at least, or equivalent kind of that. And then from that point, you will gently take it out of the cocoa peat and then plant it in your system. Okay. Now in your system, it could be planted in the system in the 3-inch neti pots directly. I have done that perfectly fine. Or you could start off in 2-inch ones. Okay. And in 2-inch ones, you know, you depending upon how big your plant is going to get or how big you want it to get, you're going to have to transplant it out of that. And that brings a little bit of difficulty because that plant in this system is going to grow roots all over the place. And some of those roots will be like hugging and wrapping around the holes in the neti pot. So now because of that, then like one of the systems I created, I took my 2-inch neti pot, put it into a 3-inch neti pot, and I had to cut a hole at the bottom of the 3-inch neti pot. So it's a hole so the roots could go through that hole and kind of stabilize, and that's just that. Okay. And I think the amaranth is actually like that. Yeah, the amaranth is actually like that. But you see, the amaranth is a big, beautiful plant. Okay. So you just got to kind of go with what the situation is showing. Okay, so let's see here. Like if I grew it, if I had like a box like this and I just want to grow like a bunch of smaller things, right, to like transplant to other things, I wouldn't let it get too big in the 2-inch net pot, just because it's going to hug around it and you're not going to be able to take it out of that. Okay, so maybe maybe in this system here, let's say I just had a whole bunch of 2-inch holes, I would maybe let them grow maybe to 2-3 inches, and then from that point, I'm doing whatever it is that I want to do with it to put it in its final place. Okay. So here's the cocoa pebbles, so the little pebbles you've seen around the plants. Let's say, let me go back to it. Okay, you don't really see it there. Yeah, you see it there. Okay, so that's the moringa. You see those, it kind of creates like a stabilization around the plant itself. But I could use also a collar for that, and I'm going to change it to a collar. Okay, but that there, those pebbles are the pebbles here. You want to wash them off and stuff like that. Okay, because they're gonna have like dirt and clay on them, so you want to wash them off, and you can use them, and you can reuse them over and over and over again. Here's the cocoa peat. Here's the neti pots, 2-inch net pots and 3-inch net pots. Again, the net pots go up to like 8 inches, and even bigger ones than that. Okay, but for me, for what's happening with what I'm doing, the 3 inches is a good spot for me. Okay, depending upon again what I'm growing, how big I want it to get, and so on and so forth. Then maybe a 4-inch or a 5-inch or a 7-inch would be better. But again, it just depends. Did that answer everything, Candace? Candace, did that answer everything for you? Okay, I'm going to assume it did. Okay, let's see here.
I had a question.
Oh,
sorry.
one second, Drew. Okay, one moment, Drew.
Mhm.
Because Teresa had her hand up before you. So one moment here, Teresa. I'm looking at the comments here. Does not have to expand. Let's see here. Okay, does not have to expend energy on searching for roots or surviving one's environment, only focusing on growth. Yep. Cassandra said egg cartons work perfect. Yes, people do use and have been using egg cartons to sprout seeds and growing plants and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Teresa, you had a question. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, forgive me if I'm asking a question that somebody asked. And growing plants, I saw that solution that you had recommended for hydroponics. Is there some type of solution that you would recommend? Yeah, like that. Is there some kind of solution you would recommend to if you were growing things in the dirt, in the soil, or?
I will have to look into that because yeah, I don't know any off the top of my head, but there are many good brands out there for soil growing as well.
Okay. And then if a person is doing that hydroponics and they're doing it outside, that means it's open to the air, and that means that the rain will come on the plants. Am I right?
Yes, if you have it in a place where rain will hit it, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a situation that we got groundhogs around here, so I got a space to be able to grow some things outside, and I just got to figure out a way how I'm going to get rid of the groundhog and their babies and stuff like that. That's an ongoing battle because they can go underground too. So
I'm sure.
yeah, so that's something I'm gonna have to figure out what to do. It's not about growing enough plants for the groundhog. The groundhog will take everything.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not sharing. They don't share. So Thank you for taking the time to answer my question.
Very welcome, Teresa.
Thank you.
So it will go Drew next, and then Maurice. So let me mention this as well. Remember, the environments, typically, there's always been what we call rodents around, stuff like that, eating the food and stuff like that, right? But especially we made their environments also inhospitable, where they don't have food either. So especially if you're growing some nutrient-dense food, they will be able to smell that potentially miles away, and they're going to come for it. Okay, so let's be aware of that. So it's kind of a good thing in a way, because you will see all the animals wanting your food, right? Which means that your food does seem to be more nutritious than what is available outside. But at the same time, you're going to have to put up defenses and stuff to keep them out of eating your food. Okay. So Drew, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, hello. Sorry about that. You mentioned something earlier about the growing of fungus. I wanted to know how would that the root network be different from the root network of like a regular seed?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, so when it comes with fungus, specifically mushrooms, they create what's called the mycelium network. Okay, and we are walking on top of it all the time. Okay, and this mycelium network is like a brain. Okay, so let's talk about like in a forest, for example. So some of you heard me talk about before the human matrix and the nature matrix. Okay, when humans get together, each human is, let's say, giving off a certain field of energy. Okay, and when more humans get together or around each other, the bigger that field is. Okay, and let's call that the human matrix. And so what it does is, depending on the mindset of the majority of the people, it keeps things within a certain line. So let's say if everyone within this human matrix was thinking like a monster is going to come down from the sky, literally everyone, I mean, and really believed it, well, it would create almost an egregore. An entity would appear, and they call this mass psychosis, okay? Where people are spazzing out over something that somebody else outside of that may not even see, but they're literally being affected by it, even physically, okay? That's the human matrix, but typically the human matrix doesn't go that far except in very small groups. The human matrix, because people are a certain way to be programmed a certain way, it keeps things very basic. Do you understand what I'm saying? You see pretty much around us, other than what the cabal is doing, it's pretty basic. Nothing is happening at all except people spazzing out, okay? And so that's just that, right? But the nature matrix is something different. So that when you walk into a forest, because of the mycelium network, okay, this root system is, think of it like a fungus root system, but it's much different than a plant root system. It's almost like nerve endings that spread throughout the entire land, okay? So when you walk into a forest, not only does every plant know you're there, when I say plant, I'm talking about fungi and stuff as well, okay? So every plant, fungi, tree, everything, it knows you're there. But also those creatures that have been born and live off of that geographical area, they also know you're there. This is why some of you who may step into a forest, instantly everything goes quiet, right? And it will stay quiet because everything is paying attention to you, okay? Because it knows you're not from the forest itself, right? So the nature matrix also creates weird phenomena also. Very strange things happen in the nature matrix. Entities appear and disappear, and so on and so forth, right? This tends to happen when there's a person alone, or it could be multiple people, but they are weak-minded. So they're not bringing that human matrix with them. But even if they are bringing that human matrix with them, depending upon the size of that nature matrix and how powerful it is, it can cause weird things again just to take place that may be good, but tends to be not so good. Okay. What else here? When it comes to the nature matrix, this is what comes like grounding, right? Most of us don't touch the ground at all. Sometimes we go years, literally. Think about it. Most of us live in houses or apartments, right, which are made of toxic materials purposely. Okay, toxic materials. So our feet are on carpets and stuff like that, which are toxic materials. Okay, which have no connection to the mycelium network or to nature. When we leave out the home, 99% of the time, we're wearing rubber shoes, or we're wearing some shoes, period, that have no connection to the mycelium network. Okay, we go inside of a car or ride a bike or something that, again, has no connection to the mycelium network. And this is our day-to-day, every single day. Okay, some people go years without ever their feet touching the dirt. Okay, when you ground yourself and you go out, especially into nature, you can't be surrounded by concrete all around you, okay? Because it's tainted and stuff like that. And the mycelium network might not be underneath you, at least in a noticeable way, because of all the concrete and all the digging and traumatic things that happen. But when your feet are able to touch the ground, especially in a area that's like a forest preserve, stuff like that, that grounding was happening is that the mycelium network, the nerves are, you could say, the impulses, the pulses that are happening are pulsing through you if you have no shoes on and if your feet are touching the ground directly. Okay, that's actually true grounding, and it connects you with the natural matrix that's around you. Okay, so and you be able, depending upon how connected you are, like some of you do have the book on the website called the Forest Mage book. Okay, and so some of you do have that, which is the techniques to become a forest mage, right? And so if one connects themselves enough to the nature matrix, then when the nature matrix senses something, you will sense it too. Now you might not know why you sense it, but you will sense it as well. Okay. So Reese.
Another question.
Okay. Go
Can
ahead.
I ask you real quick?
Yep.
So if I was to go into a park like let me see, a park, Marquette Park, and will the mycelium network be there even though it's tainted by concrete?
It depends. For example, because you live in New York and in Brooklyn, that's pretty much a concrete city. So for example, is this park surrounded on all four sides by dense concrete in buildings and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, the Marquette Park, I was talking about one in Chicago, but a park by me, yeah, there's parks by me, but it's really like in a block form, like a square form, but it's probably around about 5 miles around, so it's pretty large. But it's still like concrete in it and around it though, like it's certain roads, but there's
Okay.
open land here and there.
More than likely, it's not going to be, if it's there, it's not going to be as dense. Okay, so the more where nature is, the more dense the mycelium network is at as well. Okay, so with all the concrete and all the unnatural structures that are around in cities and stuff like that, like Marquette Park. When you said Marquette Park, I wasn't sure if it was one near you in New York or whatever, but like Marquette Park is a bigger park here in Chicago, but it's still surrounded by concrete all around. And there may be some presence of the mycelium network deep underground, but that wouldn't really affect you at all. Okay, you want an area where the mycelium network more than likely is close to the surface. Okay, and because that's where the real connection happens.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Maurice, you're next. Maurice. Okay, I guess he got disconnected. Okay, anyone else have any comments or questions for tonight?
Just real quick, Tony, it's Cassandra. What about catching rainwater? Would that be not a good thing or a good thing to use if you're doing it indoors?
If you're doing it indoors, you want your environment to be controlled. So
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
you're potentially introducing pathogens and foreign bacteria and parasites or mites and these other bugs into your grow operation, and you don't want to do that.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
I have one last question. I'm sorry. You go ahead, Cassandra. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Teresa.
yeah, I just so what I'm understanding, I had, I live in the city and the houses are next to each other. And I was like during the summer going out, like taking my shoes and taking my shoes off and, putting my feet in the grass. So from what I'm understanding, that really wasn't grounding because the street has asphalt in it and the driveways have asphalt and concrete sidewalks and everything. So to get that network from what you're saying is I really need to go out into into the park systems, because where I'm at, they have like park systems that connect one to another to really actually get a true grounding.
Ideally.
And then also with I have amaranth, like that, the amaranth you cook with. Can I use that amaranth as to grow things with, to grow a plant with? I was just wondering.
Can you use the amaranth what to grow a plant with?
To the amaranth that I use like with my for food preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Can I use that amaranth to? I guess those are like seeds, and I can use those to grow. To actually put them in a soil, and maybe they'll grow. I was just wondering.
Well, amaranth does have seeds, yes. But if it's an amaranth plant that's already grown, if you take a cutting from it and put it in water, as long as it catches roots and the roots grow, then yes, you could plant that and have another plant.
Okay. Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you. Maurice, you had a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about EMF protection. Is it necessary for the aeroponics, or should you just keep it away from any heavy EMF electronics?
So,
can you hear me? Okay.
Yep. Okay, so what you want to do is when it comes to like this, the more attributes of your grow you could control, the more you could potentially manipulate for better growth and healthier plants. Okay, so let's say, for example, let's say one of you all had like a huge warehouse and you actually want to grow tons of food, not only for yourself, but to literally sell, to be like your own supermarket kind of thing, right? Then there's a whole multitude of things we'll end up doing. Okay, so it's this massive amount of growth in the shortest period of time, and we'll control pretty much every part of it. Okay, so like growing it most likely in a house or apartment, where I'm sure all of us live at in some form of fashion, suburbs or whether it's city or whatever, you're going to be bombarded with EMF. So unless you close off or somehow shield your home from EMF entirely, which would be a good thing even for yourself, then your plants are absorbing some form of it. But I wouldn't be stressed out about that, just because your plants will be, the food you'll be eating is so much better which would potentially give you more the ability to adapt to those type of environmental stresses.
Okay. Overstood.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? I think somebody else who was going to say something. Was that you, Ed, or it was somebody I seen who unmuted themselves? Drew?
Yeah, I just want to know, do you have any temperature requirements or humidity requirements that you set these plants at?
Well, I don't set them at per se, but I do have, like, if you look here on the screen here, you all can see that little square little digital meter kind of sitting down up in there. Okay, here's a closer of it. That's actually a temperature and humidity meter. Okay, and so I keep it in all my grow areas, so I know what the humidity is and the temperature at all times. Okay, so what you want to look at, for example, so the ideal temperature I seen is pretty much around 70, 75 degrees for most of the plants I grow, and the ideal humidity is between like 80, 89%. Again, it changes like every, few minutes or whatever, but let's say around 80%, 85 humidity has been a great for my plants that I grow. And so that's just that. Like, you don't want the temperature at 100 plus unless you're growing tropical plants, and unless the environment does have some humidity in it as well, because you'll end up burning or drying out your plant. Okay, so, but you should have some type of humidity meter in your grow area, especially if it's indoors, so that you can kind of just monitor and just look at it from time to time and see how that space is doing.
And that enclosed space you have, you said it's a door, right? So it only covers 4 sides, not the top. I mean, well, does it cover the top and the bottom? I see the bottom was exposed.
The top has it's a rail. It has 5 spots. Okay, it's a rail system. So it has 5 areas. So I could have made this area much bigger. And so the bottom area, I have something like some storage things down up in there. The top area is like 2. It has, of course, it's all the way at the top itself, where you put things on top of the shelving itself. But then it's 2 other spaces. One space is, of course, sharing the lights that are above, shining down, okay, from the top. And so I can put things in that space, and there's a space right above that where I do my sprouts and stuff. Okay, so that's where I grow and sprout things at and stuff like that.
Okay, and what you made the door out of? Wood, or like, is it cloth?
Now the door is cork board, and it's up with
Okay.
like zip ties. It's very crude, there's zip ties and stuff like that that's keeping it closed, just so that so it could have the mylar. I didn't necessarily have to have it, but I didn't want the light. See, everything in this type of environment, you don't want to lose any of the energy that is going on. So if I didn't have any door on it at all, and the mylar was only on 3 sides, so it's only being reflected on 3 sides, that means that light is escaping from that one side. That's energy. And in this case, I'm paying for that. Okay, it's not like this is solar. Okay, so I'm paying for that. So that modified door that I created, which is pegboard, it has mylar on it, so it's reflecting that energy back in, and so my plants are benefiting at least from some of that extra energy versus not benefiting from anything at all. Okay, so when it comes to your grow rooms and stuff like that, no matter what you're growing indoors, energy has a cost to it. Okay, unless you're doing solar, but it still have a cost, because unless you just sitting on millions of dollars to say, and it doesn't matter, you're throwing money everywhere it goes, and it doesn't matter if you lose anything, then you want to maximize your costs. Okay, so that, because otherwise you just literally just throwing money away.
I got it. And is the only thing you have blowing air is a fan, right? Not no type of vent.
Yes, there's 2 fans on it. If it was like marijuana or something, then yeah, there'll be additional things like charcoal filters and all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? To bring the smell down. Because
So you wouldn't.
Mhm.
I mean, I've seen people add charcoal filters. I was looking at certain setups that people had, and they built some filters, like they added a duct into the like a side wall,
Mhm.
and they added certain filters to it.
Mhm. Yeah, even a heap of filters like that. But again, that's mainly you see those when it comes to mainly marijuana grows. Okay, now with a person with that type of control, when it comes to, because think about a lot of that is for smell. Okay, when it comes to a grow like this, it's not any smell. This is vegetables. Okay, so I necessarily wouldn't need a charcoal. Typically, maybe a HEPA filter if it comes to like if I'm concerned with like pathogens and stuff like that, bacteria, mites and things like that. That's in the air. Okay, yes, and that those will also be used as well in a marijuana grow. But if I was more concerned with that, then yeah, maybe some type of HEPA filter. But other than that, no, don't need it at all. Now, again, if it was a marijuana grow and the person had the finance to do it correctly, then yes, I would have HEPA filters and charcoal filters and a few other things going on. Okay, because you don't want, because even like if someone has a grow, for example, marijuana is a very interesting species of plant. So if someone has a male plant, even sometime a mile or 2 miles away, that is giving off spores, it could potentially, if your grow room is open to the outside, so like for you open the outside door or you have a window and that's the outside air coming in, then your plant that is maybe an all female plant all of a sudden gets pregnant, let's say, and now has seeds now, okay, and stuff like that. So you don't want that. Okay, so in those type of cases, that's why it's imperative that marijuana grows, especially, do have HEPA filters and stuff like that to prevent that from happening. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? Any other questions or comments? Okay, going once. Any other questions or comments? Going once. Listen, me say this to you all, everyone here. Yes, this may be very exciting and very interesting, which I'm glad it is for you. But we are in very interesting times. Okay, so even if you just, again, the cost of this, let me add, while we're on our line here, just let me add the additional costs. Okay, so the 2-inch pots, let's go back down here. I'm gonna bring the cost meter down here. Okay, so the 2-inch pots, $7.99 for 50. Okay, 2-inch pots, 50 pack, $7.99. 3-inch pots, 30 pack for $12.99. Okay, the cocoa peat is 2 pounds for $14.99. And the clay pebbles is, okay, hold on here. But no, the cocoa peat, cocoa peat is $22.99. Okay, so the cocoa peat is $22.99 for, oh, okay, for 5 pack. Okay. And then the clay pebbles, that was a 2 pound. That was $14.99. Let me add up the additional here. So it was $236.65 before that, $236.65 plus $14.99 plus $22.99 plus $12.99 plus $7.99. So now it comes to $295.61. $295.61. Okay, so now this brings the cost here to this So $5.50 plus shipping. Okay. So so pretty much I'm charging $250 to do it for you. That's what I'm charging. Okay. If you want me to do it, and it would be exactly how mine is. Okay. You just have to buy your lights. If you need lights, you need to purchase your nutrients. Okay. And just your lights, your nutrients, and maybe Mylar. Okay, stuff like that. But so you have costs that will go directly to you that you would just purchase and have it shipped to you. Other than that, from me doing it and then putting it into a box and shipping it to you is $5.50 plus shipping. I estimate shipping would probably be around, just due to the size of it, not necessarily the weight, probably around $40, and then it'll be shipped by FedEx. Okay, so that's just that, and it take me about a week to do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's just that, because I will end up adding the pour hole on it, potentially adding anything else you may want, and also the water level hole as well. So you'll be able to see your water level hole, but it depends on that specifically. I'm just looking at different methods of doing that, because it's gonna be at the bottom, right? All the way at the bottom. So you want no leaks down there, because that's where everything will leak out. You don't want that. Okay, because remember, if your aeroponic system runs out of water, whether it be because the roots drunk it all up or because it's a leak or something, right? Your harvest will die. That's it. Now, potentially what can happen is that you can end up having, let's just talk about a modified version of this real quick. So let's say, okay, you all see this here. So what can happen is that, how would that actually, okay, you could have one as a reservoir, and I got to, I'll be drawing this out and stuff. I got kind of drawn up, but it could be like one main reservoir, and you have just a bunch of the top parts here. Okay, so you see, like, you have one main reservoir like to the side. You have like 3 of the top parts here, right? And it's one tube going from the reservoir, and it's going through all of these systems. So it's going through literally 3 bins. Okay, and then somehow the water comes back. Okay, it will come back to the reservoir. I got to think about how that would be done, but it's all different types. There's no wrong way of doing this, right? If it works, it works. You know what I'm saying? And then as you're doing this, especially if you're the type of person that's always trying to improve something, especially if something can be improved, then at that point you can modify and improve it more and stuff like that. Okay, but if you're creating a system that is a bigger system that's more than, say, 3 of these, let's say, then you may want to look into a central reservoir where, so you have to keep like pouring all these nutrients and stuff, right? You have one reservoir where nutrients are poured into, and all the different bins or different areas will feed off that one system. Let me also mention this to you. I'm growing vegetables, right? If I was growing a flowering plant, like I was actually just growing flowers as well. And let me tell you all something, right? Just like there's a difference in growing vegetables, there's also a difference in literally just flowers. Like literally you could grow one flower, one type of flower, it will smell up your entire home. You're like, what the heck? You could go to a nursery, you could go to a florist, and it's full of flowers, and yet you don't smell them. Okay, again, they are commercially grown just like plants are, but with even harsher chemicals and stuff. So if you think vegetables and fruit that you eat have lost its nutrients, the flowers don't pretty much have anything, right? It used to be, going back before I was even born, where some of the elders used to tell me, they used to buy their woman, let's say, a bouquet of roses, and let's say they have a pretty big house, let's say they have a multi-family house, let's say 4 to 6 bedroom type of things, or a pretty large house. They would take that, they're bringing one bouquet of flowers, put it in the kitchen, and the whole house smells like roses or whatever those flowers are, literally. Okay, you can get a bouquet of flowers and put one in each room, one bouquet in every room, and you still won't smell it like that. Okay, so with that being said, when you even grow flowers, for example, it will smell up your entire place. Okay, and the colors will be so vibrant because you're growing it the same exact way. But you do not want to mix vegetable plants and flowering plants in the same bin. The reason why is because there's all different types of nutrients out there. Okay. Like for example, going back to the Fox Farm here, some of these nutrients, like for example, this one here, the Grow Big, this one is pretty much for vegetables. Okay. For vegetables. Okay. So pretty much primarily, this is the one I'm using for vegetables, right? But if I had a flowering plant, once it gets to a certain stage, I would, or either the entire time I would use the buds and blooms, or once it gets to a certain stage, I will switch over to the buds and blooms. Okay, so it could produce more buds or blooms because it's a flowering plant. You don't want to do that. So in the same bin, let's say here, I wouldn't mix whether it's vegetables and flowering plants, because eventually the flowering plant wants to flower. And if you keep it in that more vegetative state, sometimes it would just die because it's meant to blossom and it can't blossom. Okay. So, or it's meant to flower and it can't flower or whatever. Okay. So you just want to be conscientious of that. If you are growing flowering types of plants, of course, marijuana is a flowering type of plant, for example. You don't want to mix the reservoir waters of your flowering plants and in your vegetable plants. Okay. You want to keep them separate. So, any other comments or questions, anyone? Any comments or questions? Any comments or questions going once? Any comments or questions going twice? Okay, so it looks like that's it for now. Okay, so I do appreciate everyone. Everyone stayed in the entire time tonight. Okay, so we didn't pretty much lose anybody. Everybody stayed here who joined in. So again, any questions come up, just let me know, and we could discuss it. Again, on the website, there's a course you'll find there. If you have interest in it, in going with this journey, could continue to keep going. It's only $10. It's a course that does not do homework. Okay, it's just pretty much we are journaling not only the journey that you see going on with me here with this stuff, but also what may be going on with you and so on and so forth. So it's pretty much be like a journal kind of notes thing and adding parts, and the mushroom growing is going to be in there and all that type of stuff. So if you're interested in that, it'll be on there. But other than that, any questions and things come up with your grow, let me know. And depending upon how many questions come in over time, we may end up doing another one of these just to kind of go over other stuff, right? And you could even see where my grow is at that time or what else I'm growing as well. So with that being said and done, everyone have a very good night, and we will talk soon. Take care.